Hello students, I'm Dr. Himanshu Kanpal, Assistant Professor English, Government MS College for Women, Bikaner. Today I'm going to discuss two terms, inscape and instress, given by Victorian poet Gerard Manley Hopkins. Inscape and instress. These two terms were coined by the Victorian poet Gerard Manley Hopkins as he developed his theories of what constituted poetry. Inscape means the particular features of a certain landscape or other natural structure which make it different from any other. The theological belief behind this was that God never repeats himself. Hopkins, as a poet artist, had to determine just what was special about any scene. His notebooks show the tremendous care with which he details what he thinks is unique about a particular sunset, cloud formation, or even waves. So, inscape is key to Hopkins's poetry. It means the conception of an aesthetic discovery of great importance. Inscape is the distinctive pattern or species of individually distinctive beauty perceived in nature by the artist. Inscape to Hopkins meant design or pattern. At one place he writes, as air or melody is what strikes me most of all in music and design in painting, so design, pattern, or what I am in that habit of calling inscape is what I above all aim at in poetry. He feels that the countless forms of nature are all unique, separately inscaped by God. He feels that each object is creation and the mind of each man too has its own inscape which gives it its own identity. As each man's mind has its own inscape, men inscape the world separately according to their individual mood of awareness. Hopkins constantly endeavored to find patterns and perspectives in nature. By instress, he means the actual experience a reader has of inscape. Both of the term inscape and instress, they are closely related. Instress means the actual experience a reader has of inscape, how it is received into the sight, memory, and imagination. The poet's job is to find images that will nail the inscape down for readers so that they can recapture the poet's perception and experience. The terms convey the uniqueness of each created thing or person and how individuality is perceived or experienced by the observer. So, we can say that the term instress is closely associated with inscape. If inscape refers to the individual or essential quality of the thing, or what Hopkins calls individually distinctive beauty of style, that is inscape. If inscape is the body, instress is the soul which makes the body act the way it wishes. This idea was so the terms convey the uniqueness of each created thing or person and how that individuality is perceived or experienced by the observer. The idea was both ancient, being expressed particularly in the writings of the medieval theologian and philosopher, Scottish philosopher Duns Scotus, and modern, seen in the Romantic poets. Hopkins felt it was also the artist's job to perceive and express such uniqueness either in art or through words. The concept of inscape shares much with Wordsworth's Spots of Time, Emerson's Moments, and James Joyce's Epiphanies, showing it to be a characteristically romantic and post-romantic idea. But Hopkins's inscape is also fundamentally religious. A glimpse of the inscape of a thing shows us why God created it. Each mortal thing does one thing and the same. Myself it speaks and spells, crying, "What I do is me, for that I came." Hopkins occupies an important place in the poetic line that reaches from the major romantic poets, especially Wordsworth and Keats, through Tennyson and the Pre-Raphaelites to Hopkins, Pater, Yeats and the Symbolist, and finally to Ezra Pound and the Imagist. His insistence that inscape was the essence of poetry. At one place he says, poetry is in effect speech employed to carry the inscape of speech for the inscape's sake, and that consequently what he called Parnassian poetry competent verse written without inspiration was to be avoided, has much in common with the aestheticism of Walter Pater, one of his tutors at Oxford, and the art for art's sake movement, and sounds very much like the theoretical pronouncements of the Imagist of the 20th century. What is the meaning of the terms inscape and instress? Gerard Manley Hopkins used two terms, inscape and instress, in his poetry about individuality and uniqueness. So we should always remember that he has used these both terms in poetry that talks about the individuality and uniqueness of things. Hopkins' poetry is recitable yet not conversational. It is formal and rhetorical. By inscape, he means the amalgamated complexity of characteristics due to which each object, remember that inscape is the quality due to which each object is unique and differentiated from others. Whereas inscape stands for the former or focused view, any pattern that is recognized in the natural world. Hopkins' inscape and instress, just like other Catholic philosophers, Hopkins also believed that there is an outer world which man is not aware of, doesn't know about. Man is in the present sense of the world which is realistic. The real shapes of mind, according to Hopkins, were all concerned with the normal beliefs prevailing in reality and renewability of things and people. He did not try to thaw nature into a system of symbols, rendering the real world of spirit. What is the concept of inscape? The concept of inscape shows the characteristics of romantic and post-romantic idea, sharing with Spots of Time of Wordsworth and Moments of Emerson, as we have already read it. However, inscape is fundamentally religious because according to Hopkins, the inscape of a thing shows us how God has created it. Inscape is the shape. The shape or inscape of the speech sound is more important for him than the logical content. Poetry to Hopkins is a pattern. So inscape according to Hopkins is the soul of art. Hopkins's frequent use of compound adjectives in the poems and the devices of inversion of word order, omission of relative pronouns are the ways through which he captures the inscape of the objects he depicts in his poems. Hopkins's philosophical and critical terminology has the Old English roots, but he uses Latinic terms like stress and scape as suffixes to suit his needs. Wherever he explained his words, their practicality details and compactness becomes clear and obvious. He intended to restore the power of the English language that it used to have once. This is the reason why his poetry resumes English music's line where its grammar sequence got interrupted. To many, Hopkins seemed to be reaching back while in reality he meant to reach forward to English poetry. Always too scrupulous and self-critical, Hopkins never reconciled writing poetry and serving God. His poetry, as a consequence, is a means to express the thisness of an object or God, that is inscape, and the force that sustains it. The poem, The Wreck of Deutschland, his sonnets such as The Windhover, Pied Beauty, Carrion Comfort, No Worst, There Is None, etc., beautifully brings out Hopkins's concept of in stress. Hopkins wrote his poem for the ideal audience, which it seems did not exist in his days. In fact, the word, phrases, and the local poems often pull us away from the poem. The real meaning often is poised over the text, the linguistic surface. Hopkins's place in the poetic line is very important, and it reaches from the Romantic poets Wordsworth and Keats. Here I would like to tell you something about the Keats's influence. Keats was a strong influence upon him, as upon so many of the later Victorians, and Hopkins shared Keats's gift for evoking in words the physical response suitable to the thing they express. This was more conspicuous in Hopkins because of his intense interest, for which he found support in the 13th century philosopher Duns Scotus, in the qualities which give any object its individual reality, distinguishing it from other objects of the same class. For these qualities, he invented the term inscape. He also invented stress for the force of these qualities on the mind. The intensity of response to the reality and beauty of objects was akin to the intensity of his feeling about the relationship between God and man. So, Hopkins's place in the poetic line is very important, and it reaches from the Romantic poets Wordsworth and Keats through Tennyson and other pre-Raphaelites and Yeats and the symbolist, and finally covers the Imagist and Ezra Pound of the early modernist movement. This is all about the two terms inscape and in stress, that is popularized by G.M. Hopkins and used effectively by the poet in many of his poems. Thank you.